This conference will now be recorded.
All right. So this workshop is about how to build an excellent career in embedded systems and IoT. Okay. So let me move on to the next slide. So let me introduce myself and the organization. As many of you would know, our organization name is Immersi. Basically, this particular company got established in the year 2003, and we are located in Bangalore. We have been in the same space about 17 plus years now. So as a company, we had two areas of focus. To start with, we have been doing the education and training programs, focusing on different segments, starting with the entry level engineers, what you guys are mainly finish up their engineering and looking for a first job. And then we also do what you call the upskilling programs for working professionals and the corporate organizations, on a specific topics. So we train people anywhere around 2 years to 15 years experience when it comes to the corporate training, right? So in the past, we also built certain products, or also taken some project consultancy, mainly in the embedded systems and IoT area. Things like, for example, industrial IoT, agriculture automation. We did some product development as well. But later, 2015 onwards, we thought we would like to focus as a company. So we kind of kept one single focus on education, right? So we are a people who work with various companies, and we are really passionate about this particular field. So we quit our corporate jobs, and then we are running this particular organization. I'll talk about it myself as well, right? So we are really passionate about knowledge sharing. In fact, this particular initiative is also in that direction, where we share our learnings with our awareness with entry level engineers, so that you can make an informed decision in your career. Right? What I've seen, based on my experience, many of you take decisions, but that decision is based on very fragile facts, right? You don't really think in a long-term perspective. Imagine, right, you are like 21, 22, or plus or minus 1, right? So you need to work till 60, right? So whatever decision that you are going to make now, you need to basically in a position to do it for the next 40 years, right? So that's a important thing. These type of webinars and sessions will give you the necessary awareness required for that, right? So the last point, many of you would have heard about this initiative from Government of India called Skill India. So Skill India aims to impart the necessary job skills among the youth of this country. So the idea is, majority of you studied engineering, right? Or rather, all of you studied engineering. If you ask a quick question, maybe I'll take a quick, answer from you guys. How many subjects you studied in your 4 years of engineering? Can you type in the window? Totally, labs, exams put together. How many subjects you studied in your 4 years of engineering? In case you've done MTech, you add that also. So Gaurav says 40, Abhishek says 40, 44, 46, right? Look at those numbers. 60 plus, Gautam says. Bhumika says 42. Look at this, right? Look at this now. 72, Leela Prasad says, right? It looks like, a test match score of, Indian middle order, right? I think that's how it looks, right? But if you look back at those 4 years, even though you studied 40, 60, 70 subjects, right? Those subjects and the lab that you have done is pretty much put you in the knowledge domain. So knowledge domain means you can have a kind of an idea about how things work, but really don't know how to do things. For example, it's about learning swimming, right? You know how to do a swimming, or the exams you written, and even you watch some video, but you never got into water, right? That's the same scenario you guys are in. So that's what the difference between knowledge and skill. So coming back to the Skill India, so Skill India aims to bridge this particular gap. Okay, in fact, we also get invited to so many colleges and forums how to talk about industry, academia gap and stuff like that, right? So the Skill India initiative aims to bridge that particular gap by offering what you call practical based, practical oriented training programs. So we are aligned with that. We work in various capacities in form of curriculum development, and then contributing to the knowledge base, etc. So we work in various capacities with the Skill India, right? And our course come under this particular sector called Electronics Skill Sector Council of India, RESSA. Okay. So that's about the company. And coming to myself, so this is me. Even though I lost more hair than what I look in the photograph, my daughter keeps making fun of me that I still cheat people with this my young photograph. Okay, so probably I'll open up my video later. So my name is Jai Kumar. So I completed my engineering from NIT Warangal. It was erstwhile called REC when we studied. It was then part of Andhra Pradesh. Then moved to the what do you call the Telangana state, right? So okay, Rakesh says my native place. Nice to know, Rakesh. Okay, so I studied basically. I grew up in a town called Erode in Tamil Nadu till my schooling. I guess good number of you joined from Tamil Nadu as well. I saw that. Then for 4 years I studied in Warangal, Andhra Pradesh. Then I came to Bangalore and I started my career in 2001. A startup called Ishoni Networks. So Ishoni Networks was a company working in broadband technology. So when you say broadband, it will look very funny if I use the word called broadband, because there is no concept of dial-up now, right? But if you look back 20 years, earlier it was called dial-up connection, where we used to get internet speed of something like 56 kbps, right? Kbps. You can't even imagine, right? If you just want to download one particular simple notepad file, probably you can keep the download on, go have breakfast, coffee, tea, and come back. Then only the file will download, right? But today we are talking about you guys having a mobile phone in your hand, having 4 GB or 2 GB daily download limit and stuff like that, right? So all these things made possible because the fundamental technology, what you call broadband, came into picture. Then the broadband became a mobile broadband, which when you went to 4G, and we are already talking about 5G, right? So that's a premises in which I started my career in Ishoni Network. So we are building the device, the home routing device, which we use in our homes, whether you are using an Airtel or ACT or any local provider. The box that you keep in your house, the similar kind of box we used to build, right? That's what I got. That's where I got the first exposure to embedded systems, primarily working on the networking protocols, networking automation and some of the protocol development, etc. Then I was there for about 2 years. Then I moved to HP. Many of you know Hewlett Packard. So HP has got a broad product portfolio. So I joined their inkjet printer division. So they were then opening up a R&D or a software development in Bangalore. Earlier, initially they had a laser jet development, but when I joined, the inkjet was just getting started. So since I came from the networking background in my first company, I continued in the same area. In the HP, you call it as a connectivity printers. So when I say connectivity, which includes USB, Wi-Fi, all the wired Ethernet, and earlier we used to even have Bluetooth, etc. Right? So all the various device drivers, networking middleware, right, or the connectivity middleware used to call, the network abstraction layers, network applications. So the whole connectivity stack I got an opportunity to work on. I was there for 7.5 years. And just before I left HP, we were working on this particular initiative called Cloud Print. Some of you would have heard or would have already used some of these features, where you don't need to connect a printer to a PC, right? You can directly print from the internet, right? You send your print job to the internet. From there, you connect the printer and it prints, right? So that was the last project that I was working on. So after spending about 7.5 years in HP, I went to Huawei. Many of you would know Huawei is a Chinese telecommunication company, and in the recent years they transformed into more of a mobile phone company. All of you would have heard this particular brand name, Honor, right? Huawei Honor. That's when they make all these wearable devices and mobile phones, etc. But the core portfolio was in telecom. Right, when I joined their team, their Huawei had a bunch of portfolio, starting from your small 4G hotspot, right, all the way up to complex telecommunication routers, right. They had a various set of devices, but these devices were running different operating systems, right. Some were running the legacy, some were running Arta, some were running Linux and all. So they wanted to unify all the products to Linux, because Linux offers the obvious benefit of open source, and it is free, it's very secure. In fact, I'll try to touch base about Linux and embedded systems. So many of you would have been wondering why Linux is so popularly used in embedded system development, and of course the open source also made the usage of Linux all the more prominent, right? So I was there for about 3.5 years. That's when I decided the question of what you guys have, right? What next, right? Okay. So in these 12.5 years, I was with these three organizations. I was involved in all the phases of product development, right from the concept, development, doing some or other research, development, testing, release, launch, then support the customers, bug fixing, right? So led a very wide set of teams in my 12 and a half or 13 years of my career. And then the question of what next come into picture. So that's when I quit my corporate career in the year 2013 and joined Emergy as a full-time core member in 2014. Right, because my call was to make an impact by using education, because education is something very close to my heart. As I already mentioned, I grew up in a town called, as I told, Erode, it's a place. And then when I ended up in Warangal, it was like a small gully cricket playing boy all the way playing Melbourne or Sydney cricket ground. Okay, it was such a personally it was very challenging for me. But at the same time, I also realized what a good quality education can impact positively on an individual. So that's a passion that driven me to quit the so-called corporate career. And then I joined Emergy, and then that's the history, right? In Emergy, I play various roles. I always enjoy interacting with students and then sharing my knowledge. Even before this pandemic, I used to go to a lot of conference and physically speak, but nowadays everything has become digital. Okay, that's a brief about my background. Okay, so there is already a question from Ratish. Ratish, just keep it coming, Ratish. I'll definitely answer. Okay, because let me run few more slides and then I park for questions. Okay, so thanks for the first question, Ratish. Okay, so I'll come to that. So if you look at the current situation, because I want to address the job part of it first, then come to the his career part of it later, because many of you are worried. If you look at some of the questions that may be running in your mind, right? Okay, when we started last, March, the whole pandemic situation started. Even though I would say things are not as risky as it was, in terms of the number of spreads in India, number of cases in India, but there is always the question of what about my future, right? That was sitting in, and I'm not sure your last semester how it happened. You're all sitting in your homes. That's why I asked you the question of which place you joined from. Some are sitting in Madhya Pradesh, some are sitting in Maharashtra, some are sitting in down south in Tamil Nadu or other places. Right? So you're all concerned about your future, and your parents who invested their valuable time and money on their children's future, strongly believing in the fact that education will make a difference. Definitely they are also concerned, right? And then also you hear when you see the media, they say this company laid off so many people. In the meantime, you also think about, I'm a fresher, I don't have an experience, or when it is going to end. We don't have an answer, but positively, last few weeks has been much better after the vaccine has come in, and but still we are not 100% back to our original state, right? But rather than thinking like that, this particular workshop is going to focus on what you can do in this particular situation, right? Who can help me? I need some guidance. So that's a motivation with which this particular workshop is being organized, to give you the necessary awareness and necessary, what do you call, the knowledge, so that you can make some informed decisions, right? Okay. I guess somebody is not muting. Let me check. I guess one of you were unmuted. That's where the noise come from. Okay. So hope this is clear now. The noise is not there, right? Is it okay now? Yeah. All right. I muted the person. All right. So let me proceed. So this is the situation we are in. Okay. What we can do about this, right? But looking back, right? If you look at the recession, it's nothing new. As I mentioned, I started my career in 2001, just when the 9/11 attack has happened, right? That was one of the challenging times which I saw in my career. Okay, if you see that particular situation has yielded more jobs. If you look back, all the embedded systems companies, be it Intel, be it Cisco, Huawei, or even AMD, everybody opened their India Development Center after 2001. Right, then in what was initially considered as outsourcing has become what you call offshoring, right, where they started opening their India offices. In the similar lines, if you look at 2008, when the Lehman Brothers, the crisis has happened, the financial market has crashed, right? So which has ended in, if you see the bottom line, it resulted in the Indian entrepreneurial story where companies like Flipkart and Swiggy's got created in India, right? Okay. Then if you look at now we are in 2020, okay, the COVID, the situation, right, which is much bigger than what we already seen in terms of the recession or what you call, because COVID is something which is affected across all the industry. If you look at Lehman Brothers, it was only mainly due to the real estate, right? But if you look at COVID, across all the industry, it is affected. So we are still in a wait and watch mode. Okay? But having said that, this particular scenario itself, right, gives more opportunity to innovate, especially in the embedded system domain. For example, some of the use cases I'm going to show, okay, is something which is emerged due to this particular situation. For example, social distancing in an autonomous car, right? Self-driving cars are something which is gaining more, real. And then even if you see in the news few weeks back, Tesla has officially, registered their office in India, right? So as more and more self-driving cars and those things are going to come in, right? How do you ensure social distancing in that, right? Okay. Then in the similar lines, if you talk about wearables, they've gone into all the more new level where can it predict your health condition? In fact, I was reading few articles last week. It said, even your existing the so-called, the Fitbits and the Apple smartwatch, over a period of time, they added certain intelligence where, the person's inflammation, which happens inside the body, which is one of the reasons, early indications of this pandemic or somebody's COVID positive, right? That's getting detected, right? But if you look at, there are some countries like Israel who are thinking about permanently, having a small kind of a chip, installed in their citizens' body so that they can predict and even do a contact tracing and even predict, somebody will become a positive or negative, right? So that's a kind of a new use case that is opening up. Okay. And think about robotics, right? Okay, we are in a situation where a human-to-human meeting itself is becoming challenged, right? All of a sudden, the robots are being replaced with human beings to still have the human touch, right? A lot of companies are investing in robotics. Okay, in fact, recently there is one of the hiring companies which, if you get a chance, just go and check this. There's a company called Sirena Technologies. If you get a chance, just go and Google about this company and then see what work they're doing. In fact, they're doing pretty well in these COVID times, okay, because the robots are much more in demand now. Okay, and last but not the least, even the certain technologies where we thought, okay, it has already reached a saturation. For example, a couple of years back, people were telling me that, oh, these networking technologies are already saturated because things have been stable and stuff like that. But if you look at now, right, people, all of you are logging in from your homes, and good number of us continue to work from home. And even the situation resumes normal, every company is looking forward to have good percentage of their employees working from home, right? That means to say the network is going to take more load. Okay? And networking, the core network technologies are all about embedded systems, right? And there are also certain medical, or specific embedded systems, like for example, low-cost ventilators, etc., right? So which has given more room for innovation even in these challenging times, right? Okay, so the point that I'm trying to drive here is there is nothing to feel bad and nothing to feel disappointed. Of course, it's been very hard for all of us, including myself, right? We never anticipated something like this will come and change our whole life upside down. But having said, a lot of opportunities are opening up, like some of the examples I showed, and good number of startups are already working on this, and eventually they all boil down to embedded systems. And I've been attending or I've been reading on what is happening in the startup ecosystem. So good number of the companies are working on these areas. Okay, so that's one positive news that you can take it forward. Okay, so coming to Immersi, as you know, our placement situation, just to give a perspective about jobs, right? Okay, so this is how our last year's drives look like, guys. Okay, this is a realistic picture I want to share with you to get a what do you call, what is happening in the ground. Okay, if you look at this, right, what I also lead by the placements in Immersi. So what I tell my placement team is to have about 25 to 30 drives per month. So when I say drive, a company comes and then they ask for a particular skill set from students. So we float an application with our students, and then we give them the list of students to the company, and then they call our students for the written test or interview. Okay, that's when you call it as a drive. Okay. So if you look at the last year, right, January started phenomenally well. We did about 22 drives. And then February was a short month. We did about 18 drives. It was still okay. Okay. So if we look at this particular March, right, till March 18th, right, when I was on a travel, I clearly remember, me and my colleague, we are outside Bangalore, and we did about 13 drives already by around March 18th. Then I told my placement team, right, kind of half of the month we did 13 already. So March we should target at least 25 to 30, right? We should achieve that goal. Okay. But when we came back around March 18th, our chief minister of Karnataka, Mr. Yediyurappa, was one of the early leaders who called this particular, stopping the public gathering, etc. Right? And then after a week or so, our Prime Minister came and announced nationwide lockdown. Right? So when that particular happened, right, the whole placement fell. Okay, this is a very open data I'm sharing. What has happened as it is, right? Okay, so if you look at from 13 drive in April, there is hardly only one drive that has happened. Okay, so then in the meantime, our students, we had about 400-500 students around March mid taking the classes in our institution in Bangalore. Unfortunately, they all need to go back to the native because all the PG owners started kicking them out, and they, somehow they were scared and really don't know. They all reached and they're all sitting at their homes, around March 30, looking at their future and how it will look up, right? But when the market opened up, right, around May, when the partial or the lockdown got lifted partially, we just started seeing some improvement around June time frame, where about we started doing at least half or one third of what we used to do in regular times, right? Okay, and then subsequently things started looking better. And by the time we closed 2020, it was quite good. I mean, we are kind of bounced back to 20 drives in December, right? Okay, so this is an idea to give a perspective about how the job market behaved, right? I don't want to show any market data because market data is very vast. This is a realistic perspective what we have done in our institution, what we are seeing. Okay, so by looking into this data, what are my learnings, right? If you look at right, why do companies continue to hire? In fact, if you look at this, it's really funny if I tell this, right? There are students who are attending the class online, okay, because we started online classes as well. Even though we resumed our physical classroom from December 1st, right? We opened our office, right? So some students who attended the class online, they got placement online, and they're even working online from their home, right? Okay, the entire end-to-end thing made possible. By the time we were in September, October, we were fairly in a comfortable state where this kind of a mode is continue to exist. Okay, almost all the drives are happening in the virtual mode only, all the placement drives, right? So this is a realistic perspective for you guys, no matter what media says, no matter what newspaper says. So this is what the realistic perspective. Okay, so if you look back, right, why this kind of companies are hiring our students, right? And they in fact, if you look at last October, November, even big players like Qualcomm, NXP, Honeywell, Samsung, they all came and hired our students, right? If you look back, what made these companies to hire our students, or what made these students to crack and get a very good job, right? So one point you need to understand is embedded systems, in a bottom line, it's about product development. It's not like you're developing some application and it may or may not get used. Because every embedded system, whether you take a small speaker or even a 4G hotspot or a mobile phone, they're all mass produced. For example, a company like let us say Samsung, they probably make a few millions of phones, right? So it's a long-term investment. Even though definitely in the short term things got affected, embedded systems companies look for a long-term investment, which means to say that they can't keep waiting for the market to rebound, right? They need to move on because they made their investment. They know that even in worst case 12 to 18 months this pandemic time is going to be there until the world fully recovers, right? Okay, they can't keep waiting. Okay, that's one of the reasons where they also quickly adapted, like how we adapted, our students and our mentors have adapted to learn online. Companies also started adapting the method of hiring online. Okay, they gave written test online, the interview, in fact I see interviews, some of the interviews for our students is happening as late as 9 p.m. in the night, right? Okay, so companies also adapted and then they started moving on in the direction, right? They can't wait for a long time. Okay, and other very important thing is the embedded or IoT skill set. It's not something which you can obtain in the market just like that. Okay, as some of you would have known, right, or heard, embedded system is something which nobody can just like that become a master overnight. Okay, for example, we also teach HTML, we also do CSS and some web development in a small pocket. We do have some experience in that side as well. So compared to that application development, learning embedded systems or even IoT skill set takes more time because it involves both software and hardware. You need to really get into the lower level stuff, and then not only learn about development, learn about optimization, learn about debugging, right? So which forces the embedded and IoT skills continue to be a niche area. Okay, no matter what happens, these technologies are here to stay. You don't need to think about things vanishing overnight, right? Okay, and companies find it hard to hire skilled engineers. This is a reality, guys. Okay, so many of you would be worried, saying that okay, will I get a job, right? I would say, sitting in the placement team, I can very confidently say, like you are, right, like you are, the company is also worried. You know what they're worried about? They're worried about getting good people. When I say good, means not like not on that sense, like skilled engineers, right? So they continue to invest in hiring engineers. They continue to have a good hiring projection as we move forward. Okay. And as I already told, the digital hybrid working is here to stay. Okay, some companies are already moved their employees permanently work from home, maybe for 2 years, 1 year, etc. And some companies like us, Immersi, we are adopting something called hybrid working, where some of us are working full time in office, or some of us are working remotely. And a person like me, I'm doing both, right? Probably I'm going to office for 2 days, and then for the 3 to 4 days remaining days I work from office, work from home, right? So these type of work arrangements also is going to stay, which also means, right, companies are going to hire, or they are going to work in this model for good amount of time that is going to come. Okay, so in summary, I would say, based on the especially the COVID experience, right? This is the learning. If you ask me, right, the skills are going to say, investments are coming in, companies are hiring, but only bottom line is, do you have the right set of skills to get yourself employed? Okay, that's a question that we are going to discuss further. Okay, so I would like to pause here. I already got some questions. I'll start answering them. So please feel free to type in more questions. So here is the Ratish was the first question. So what's your programming language should I focus on? I'm from computer engineering. So
Yes,
Ratish,
sir.
guys, can you mute? I think some of you are not mute. So Ratish, and others. So we
Yes,
always
sir.
say in university, let me also use the notepad to explain it better. I
I
will
am
put
listening,
something
sir.
like, okay, so learn one programming language very well. Okay, so often I see people get fascinated about programming language. They come and tell me, sir, I know Python, can I get a job? So I know C++, can I get a job, right? Okay, the idea is not about
Sir,
it's, imagine, right, your programming languages, your programming languages. Yesterday I was telling to somebody, your programming languages, right? The programming languages are like pens, right? Somebody comes and tells me, sir, I have a red ink pens. Somebody comes and tells I have blue ink pen, right? But doesn't matter. What is more important is your thinking, right? Okay, it doesn't matter whether you buy expensive pen or cheap pen. Every pen will write, right? But what are you going to do with that pen? Can you write one-page essay with that? That's what matters, right? Similarly, especially when you're thinking about embedded system, you learn one programming language very well, and I will stress only on C. Okay, even though we do C in our course, right? When you say C, it is not about chumma, writing some Fibonacci series and writing odd even number, or doing some number triangle printing and all. When you say C, for example, a topic like pointers, right? Because majority of you, when you say pointers, you'll say out of syllabus, right? Okay, that's what happens in the college, right? For example,
sir,
you are
pointer for
doing
the address of the node.
dynamic memory allocation. Then you talk
Yes,
about
sir.
optimization, right? Then you are
Mhm.
doing, for example, bitwise operators. Very simple, I'll tell you. Bitwise
Yes,
operators are
sir.
so important when you're dealing with hardware, right? Okay. So and of course the user-defined data structures, right? Okay, or structures, these. So these are all the things what I would call C. Okay, not writing a for loop and things like that. So in summary, Ratish, okay, learn one programming language very well. Okay, and I would say, since you guys are embedded system aspirants, only focus on C. That is more than enough. Like, in fact, good number of our students get job only by doing
Sir,
good
I
C
have
programming.
completed my C language.
Guys, somebody's noise is coming. Can you please mute? Okay. All right. So consider programming languages pens, right? Okay. So you need to know how to write. That's more important. Hope that's clear, Ratish. You can answer in the chat. Let me scroll down. Which language is better for me? C, as I already told. Okay, let me go down. I could see good number of questions. So what is the mark criteria for the company? Gaurav asked. So Gaurav, that depends on the company. Okay, because some companies, I would say, he talks about the criteria, right? Okay, so his criteria is something like this. So academic criteria for company. That's a question that Gaurav has asked. So I would put something like this: bigger the company, stronger the criteria. For example, some company will say, show me greater than 70%. So this type of conditions will be put by the bigger companies. Okay, but what we have seen is over a period of time, okay, at least as far as emerging companies which are recruiting, you just don't need to worry about your academics as long as you have the first class engineering at 60% or 6 CGPA, you are done. And same thing applies to year of pass out. Okay, because many students come and ask me, sir, I'm a 2014 or I'm a 2017. I worked in a non-core industry for 2 years. I was doing a sales job for 3 years. Can I get a job? Right? You can. But the point is, you need to understand all the recruiting companies which I showed in the previous slide. They come to us, right? Or they come to Emergy or any other place mainly because of the skill set. Right? Because if they really wanted to focus on your academic, like Gaurav, right, they would have very well come to your campus and they would have done a campus recruitment. They're not much bothered about the skill set. In fact, if we talk about startups, right, they say no criteria. In fact, good number of companies are hiring, about no year pass out, no academic. Even if you have a 55%, welcome. And I have a, even though we don't commit from a placement point of view, right? Even if I have a student where somebody had a 54%, but still they got job. But the important part is this person has built a very good skill set. So the question is, if you have the answer is if you have the right skill set, you just don't need to worry about the mark or the academic criteria. Okay, the same thing I think Abhishek also asked, if year of pass out is required, if he has skills, can he get selected to the companies? Absolutely yes, Abhishek. Okay, in fact, I would put like this: if you put it in a weightage, right? Your skill set is more than your academic criteria or year of pass out. Okay, skill set is the key here. Okay, as I already told, right? If they really bother about year of pass out, they can very well come to your campus and hire, right? Okay. It's absolutely possible, right? So Bhumika says, I'm electronics and communication engineer. Which language will be better for me? C, Bhumika. As I already told you, only one language, C programming. Learn it well, you will get a job. So I was thinking to learn all the language. No, Ratish. Okay, you learn only one language well. Later, when you start working, maybe your project might require C++, might require, Python these days, especially if you're working on IoT. Good number of companies I see they are adapting Python. You'll be able to learn very easily because as I already told, have this analogy, programming languages are like pens, right? You know how to write very well with a blue ink. Tomorrow somebody says green ink or a red ink, you can very well get used to it very, very quickly. You don't need to, struggle there. Okay? Rather than coming and telling me, right? I know somebody will write the resume like the C++, Python, Java, and then they'll say, JavaScript. Okay. Okay, I would say a big no to this. Okay, don't write like this. Okay. Okay, if you write one language, learn it very well, that should be good enough. Okay. Ratish says, I'm in second year, I completed a C language. Yes, Ratish, my question is, okay, when you're in second year, you completed C language. Okay, let me tell you this particular thing, right? When you say in college, how do you learn the programming language? Say, please note this particular thing, right? Okay, learning programs versus learning programming. These two are very different. Okay. So when you say learning programs, especially in your college, what are you doing, right? For example, you'll say, odd even number. Then you write a Fibonacci. Okay. Then you write, for example, prime number, some number triangle, and then you say matrix multiplication, okay, etc. You write some 10 programs, and the teacher will write it in the board. You write it in the notebook. You by heart, like how you are by hearting any paragraph, you by heart the program. Please note, this is about learning programs. You're only by hearting programs. Okay? But all I'm telling is when you say programming, okay, can you write 100 lines of C program on your own. Okay, any program. Okay, I'll give you one problem statement. Can you write 100 lines of code for it on your own without by hearting it? So that is what we mean by learning programming. So if you're in second year, if you learn C programming, that way everybody learns C programming. If you ask a question, do you know C programming? There are about 100 plus students in this particular webinar, right? Everybody will say, yes, I learned C programming. Okay. But my question is, do you know how to do these things? This is where the meat of the matter lies. Okay. So please do a deep dive and learn it well. Please don't jump by Java, C++. You can still learn them. In fact, if you learn C programming, learning C++ will be easier. Learning Java will be all the more easier. I'll guarantee you that, because we also teach JavaScript in our institution. As it were, for some small pocket we do that, right? Even though our main focus is on embedded. In fact, learning Python is all the more easier. Today, if you see in Bangalore, people who are studying in high school, okay, they're learning Python. It's so easy. But don't get into that fact, because there's also a lot of thing going around this white hat junior, learning the school kids to learn a programming, tons of controversies around that. Okay, I don't want to get into that. But all I'm trying to say is learn the C programming, which is meant for engineers. There was also an article, I'll try to send it in the group later via our mail, right? There's also an article recently, a set of experts have written in Times of India, where they said why still learning C programming makes all the more sense. Okay, so focus on that. Okay, so let me go down. I guess good number of questions. So guys, I would like to also tell you, even though in your schedule, right, it would have mentioned like 1 hour of webinar. Generally takes more time, because this is what I call webinar. It's not about me running slides. It's more about answering your questions, right? This slide, anyways, I will share it with you guys later via email. You don't need to worry, right? It's not about slide reading. It's about this discussion. And as I'm answering these questions, more questions are popping up, and some of your questions are already getting answered. This is the value. So please put up with me. Don't come and tell me, sir, you dragged the webinar, right? The idea is to make it interactive. Okay? Hope that is okay with all of you. Okay. Then, Bhavit is asking, sir, can IoT replace SCADA? Like, can it implement it to industrial equipment? Of course, yes, Bhavit. That's a whole agenda where this industrial IoT is moving, where the traditional PLC SCADA based, or what you call the control system based solutions are getting replaced with this digital technologies. Okay, that's where the industrial IoT is heading to. Okay, so soon we'll see the whole industry getting monitored, controlled using dashboards and mobile apps and simple web applications, right? That's where the whole industry is moving about. The industry 4.0 or IIoT is all about that. Startup that they still working on Arduino. In most startup they use Arduino, but they want people who know ARM-based microcontroller. Why? Okay. So let me tell you this. Okay. So often, there is always a debate. In fact, we also do a lot of debate internally to our time. Let us say, for example, let us say Arduino versus, let us say, PIC-based microcontroller. Right? Should I use this or should I use that? Okay. So if you look at one of the good thing about Arduino, okay, let us say Arduino, what this has made? This has made the programming easier for many of you. Okay. Programming, because you don't need to, guys, I think some of you still not muted. Let me take a minute and mute everyone, then I come back. All right. So Arduino has made the programming easier, no doubt about that. Okay. But what has happened is, by learning the Arduino APIs, let's say you want to turn on an LED, we'll call an API saying that turn LED on, finish, right? You don't get into the low-level details of how that particular board schematic works, how the interfacing need to be done, nothing, right? So that's the reason, even though Arduino is a good platform to start, but that's not the way an engineer should code. I would say, my 6th standard daughter who is learning programming, for her maybe an Arduino may be a good place, okay, to start, because it makes things easier, right? Similarly, they can start with JavaScript. But as engineers, that is electronic engineers, I know, in fact, we also strongly recommend no. Okay, don't do that, because what happens is, when things are easier, I'm sure you also will agree to me, if I look back, some of the teachers whom I had in my school who have been very strict with me, okay, with us, right? Okay, who made us learn in a very hard way. We might have cursed them, we might have scolded them, whatever it may be. But when you look back after 15-20 years, you are eternally thankful to them, because going through that hard path only we learned in the right way. Okay, On the contrary, there will be some teachers who would have given very good marks and everybody got 90 plus, 80 plus. That time you would have been very happier, but later point in time when you look back, you would not have learned the subject. The same thing applies here, right? Arduino makes things easier, but that is not the place to learn real hardcore embedded programming. On the contrary, when you look at a platform like PIC, right? So for example, reading data sheets. I don't know how many of you done this, right? Interfacing, then understanding the schematics, okay, and then doing the real what you call the low level C programming, right? This is more important. And by doing this, one of the reason why we do this is, for example, Arduino comes up with these libraries which also consumes a lot of memory. That way, it may not be a memory or a resource optimized, approach that we can take, right? So in that case, it's always better you go for PIC where you can optimize every bits and pieces of your program. Okay? So that's the idea. So please do not go by these Raspberry Pis and Arduinos, and people come and ask me, sir, which board should I use, etc. Okay, take something like very primitive like PIC, do really your hard work, and then you learn in the right way. I hope that's clear, Abhishek. Let me move on. So I'm a fresher completing my degree. How will you guide me to build my career? Ram is asking. So Ram, I would say the first thing you should do is, please, for God's sake, don't buy your final year project. Okay? Because students will be go to the project center, buy the project, pay some few thousands of bucks, submit the project to the college professors. They will give you good marks and you're happy. So please don't do that. At least I would say, last 6 months of your college, spend a significant amount of time in learning C programming, one language which I already told. Second one, using the C programming, do some good project, one good project. Okay. Again, don't go by the fad. People will say artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., etc. Learn something really where you can apply your C programming skills. If you do that, I'm sure that itself will open up a good number of opportunities for you. Okay. And Priyanka says, and I'm looking a lot for job. All the time I apply for job, I clear on down. But second, they ask me to do a project. Some will ask me to code on HTTP and MQTT or everything that is quite advanced. But in engineering, we are not through about it. Yes, Priyanka. Okay, that's what I mean, right? When I ask you guys the question, how many subjects you studied in engineering? You studied about 40, 50, 60 subjects, right? You never focused on the real coding or never focused on the real hands-on part of it, right? So that is a gap which you need to work on it. So one of the ways in which you can get started is, as I already told to Ram, start with one programming language, even though straight away you don't need to jump into HTTP or MQTT, right? Start with the C programming and get hands-on, because many of you are still allergic to coding. I don't know why people think like this. Okay, you have to get onto coding. There is no generally think in India, if you look at least in India, even when you talk about embedded, right? Let me also show you here where jobs are. So embedded systems, when you take, right, you have two type of career path. One is hardware. So when you say hardware, you have areas like, for example, VLSI, chip design, okay, board design. Okay, so this we are not talking about here. So when I say embedded system, we are talking about software. Okay, so where you are going to write a code which runs on a particular hardware, okay, which involves nothing but solid C programming, right? Which below what using a PIC or any kind of a controller, right? Foundations, etc. Okay, so focus on this aspect, okay, and then things will automatically start happening. So this is where the gap is, right? Because you studied 50 subjects and those subjects are not useful to you. I agree with you. Okay, so Abhishek is telling C is important. Yes, very important, Abhishek. Okay. Data structure is already completed by me, sir. Good, Ratish. If you completed data structures, which is good, I would say that is still the second level. I would say if you look at my notepad, which I'm using here, using data structures is a good thing. Okay, but ensure that you really get good at these things. Okay. So why many companies insist here password criteria? Akshay, it's a good question, Akshay. So what happens is, especially when I told, right, it mainly applies to bigger companies, okay, because they do have some, policies, some structures where they have, it has been formed years back, right, few years back, they formed the HR policies. It is mainly to ensure that, it is met. Apart from that, I don't see much sense in insisting year of password criteria, okay, because it's all about skills. It's not about because as I already told you, what you studied in engineering, it's not directly useful in the company. So you need to gain skills. When you're gaining skills, what difference it will make whether you had a 65% in engineering or 75% in engineering, whether you're 2019 pass out, 20 pass out, doesn't matter, right? According to me, doesn't make sense, but companies still have their policies. They need to work within a particular framework. Okay, that's the reason they still insist on this type of criteria. Okay, and then we have Dicholkar. Hope I'm pronouncing it right. Okay, so Dicholkar is asking, what if aggregate is less than 60%? Okay, so Dicholkar, that also do happen. So if you ask me, at least from Emergy's perspective, we do expect at least students to have minimum 60%, and then that's a minimum criteria. But as I already told you, there are few companies who are hiring with no criteria. In fact, I have some of my students who really understood. See, you need to understand why you got less than 60%. Okay, maybe you are not so regular in engineering, or you are. Just a minute, guys. Let me open the video so that we can. Since it's a lot of questions, let me. At least you can see me. Okay, a lot of interesting questions coming up. Let me turn on the. Okay, that's me. Okay, so a lot of questions coming along. I thought it would be better if I have the window open. So if you look at, sorry. So that's the idea. So it doesn't make sense for me to lay too much stress on the era pass out or your academic criteria, but companies do expect. So coming back to the 60% part, which Cholkar is raising, right? As I already told, if you have the right set of skills with you, because in Emergy I do have some good number of cases where students, we didn't commit them anything, they just came over, they really worked hard in their assignments and projects, then they're able to get a job, even though they had less than 60% in their engineering. So it's all possible. That's what I would say. Okay? You need to work hard. Okay. Ratish is telling, so I was thinking I'll do internship in every language. No, Ratish, don't do that. That's a big mistake. Okay, you are there. You are spreading, like I'll show you a diagram shortly. Okay, anyways, later in the PPT, what you call the T model, I'll explain that. Okay, you need to basically put in one programming language. Don't do that mistake. Okay, and then there is Ravi. Ravi says, let me just open a little darker. So Ravi says, sir, why companies are not asking for MSc electronics in these companies? So Ravi, it was a scenario, at least as far as my knowledge goes, a few years back, some of the companies were encouraging MScs, but in the recent past, they are not. Very few are allowing MSc because they do expect, similar to the other part which I mentioned about era pass out or the the percentage, they do expect people to have minimum BTech. Okay, I don't have a logic to explain that, but that's a reality. Okay, okay, just myself. Okay, so purpose of learning Linux in this embedded course, sir. Okay, Lavanya is asking. So let me briefly touch upon Linux, because I in the initial part also mentioned. So Linux, basically, if you look at, it started off as a free and open source, which still continues to be, right? And since it is open source, Linux can be customizable. So that's the reason you see Linux running in a watch, Linux running in a telecom router. Linux even runs in a mainframe computer, right? Linux is like an elastic. Okay, you can run Linux in pretty much all the hardware that you can think of, right? Okay, so that's one of the reasons why having a Linux along with the programming part which I mentioned. You need to have Linux in either in our embedded course or in general. Okay, it is used because of it is free, it is open source, it is customizable, and added to that, since it is open source, lot of new tools are coming, be it editor, be it debugger, be it a code profiler. Okay, you just go and explore the Linux world. It's absolutely mind blowing. Okay, every day the kind of features, every day the kind of new stuff that is getting developed in Linux is absolutely amazing, right? So that's the reason why having a Linux as a platform. If you talk about our course, right, we learn Linux at 3 levels: an introductory Linux, then we talk about Linux system programming and embedded Linux. Okay. Even if you put together all these 3 levels, I would say we hardly teach 5% in Linux, right? Then you can think about how vast Linux is. But having a Linux, I would say, next to the C programming is a mandatory skill for you to have a good career in embedded domain. Okay? So Ratish is telling, I completed recursion, conditional statement, array function. Yes, Ratish, continue that. Whatever the points which I mentioned in my notepad, ensure you cover them. Okay. I am 2018. Ashok is telling, pass out, looking coaching in embedded, still looking for job due to pandemic. Yes, Ashok, as I already told you, you don't need to bother much about the era pass out, right? In fact, we even had last year when we talk about the pandemic year itself. We had people from even 2014 batch, right, who are getting jobs. So era pass out is not a criteria at all. As long as you have the right set of skills, you should be in a position to get a job. Okay. Moving on. Learning C become easier. Yeah, Rakesh is telling. Due to era password, we can't be able to attend many companies. Abhishek says, yes, that's what I meant, Abhishek, because companies want to put some filtering. Okay, that's why they insist on this era password and academic criteria and things like that. But if you have the right skill set, that barrier can be broken. Okay, if you rather than telling, see, I tell my students, you can't go back and change it, right? I can't go back and take my certificate and rub the 2018 and make it into 2020. That's not possible, right? Only thing that you can focus on is to get the more skills that you need, and then you further basically build on it, right? Okay, it is possible. It's you guys don't need to give up. And similarly, 2020 guys may be thinking, anyways, I passed out late around October. Look at another 3 months, my juniors will be passing out, right? It always happens. Okay, I say X and X minus 1 criteria, right? Era password and era password before, they always feel that the later batch have the advantage, right? That has an advantage provided you are applying in the open job market. But when you come to the specific skilled area like embedded systems, which you're talking about, only your skill set matters. Okay. So then Balaji says, sir, I learned C programming in school days and college days, but I did not able to develop on my own program. Why? That's what I told you. The difference between program and programming in your college or school, they have always been focusing on how to make you by heart certain programs, right? They are always focusing on this. They'll give you 5 programs. Even in your school, 12th standard computer science students, I'm sure they would have written some code. You go, you type the program and you get an output. You never thought, you never applied your logic, right? That's the reason. So learning programming is not an easy thing. You need to really, really work hard. You need to do a lot of hands-on. That's what my question is. Can you write 100 lines code of your own? If the answer is no, you need to work on it. Okay. Anish is telling, but sir, Raspberry Pi required Python. See, Anish, again, if you know C programming very well, learning Python is no big deal. And for me, whether you come and tell me Raspberry Pi or Arduino, or even these days students come and tell me, sir, Intel has released this IoT kit, can I practice in that? Okay. Or rather coming and telling me that, sir, there is this new pitch, in Delhi, Ferozshah Kotla, can I practice there? Or let's say Melbourne cricket ground, can I play like that? Or I'm going to a place in Sri Lanka, like say Colombo, can I play there, right? It's not about that. They're all like pitches. But do you know the game well? I'm talking about that. If you know your fundamentals well and your stroke play is good, your footwork is good, you can play in any pitch, right? Okay. That's what I consider. Raspberry Pi, Arduino, or any board for that matter, they are like cricket pitches. That doesn't matter. Yeah, there may be some variance between pitches, but do you know the game well? That's where my point comes into learning one programming language very well and getting good at Linux. These 2 things will take you further. Okay. I see Ijaz. So can't we learn anything in embedded system without a knowledge in programming language? No, Ijaz, especially the software part which I'm talking about. See, when I talk about the hardware part, okay, if you wanted to get here, like you wanted to get into a VLSI chip design thing, you can learn. There's no need for you to learn a programming language. But when you talk about the software part, which is where the majority of the work happens in India. If you look at any MNC today, be it Qualcomm, be it NXP, right? I would say 80% of the work that at least gets done in India, it's a software, embedded software job, for which programming language is a must. Because many of you believe that I can escape without doing programming. Okay? No, You have to learn programming. You have to learn problem solving. There is no escape from that. Or if you are really keen on that, explore the other part, the hardware part, where you need to work on more on the design things and board schematic things, which doesn't require you the programming language, right? Okay. Let me move on. I think a lot of questions. Okay, I completed 4.0 seminar. Good. Will raise in Vishnu is asking, will raise in AI/ML affects the embedded industry? Of course, yes. It's a very interesting question, right? In fact, I was exploring few things in this direction. Okay. See, fundamentally, AI and ML is about a high volume computing, and then generating so much of data, and then eventually making sense of the data, right? Okay. But even when you're talking about building so much of what you call computing, right? The computing can happen only when you have the base hardware or the embedded thing ready. Okay, just go and look into this particular website. Just Google for NVIDIA. I don't know how many of you know this particular company. If you are interested in how AI, ML, and if you just go and look at this, okay, NVIDIA is one of the major embedded or a product company, right? They are extremely working on very deeply working on the AI/ML, right? Powering their hardware, powering their software to take care of all the. Look at this, they have separate criteria. You look at this, right? If you go to the platforms, right? Look at this, right? AI and data science. If you look at this overview solution, just go and check in the product. Let us say, for example, let us say data center, right? You go and look at, right, a lot of these high performance computing devices. Okay, good number of embedded work is happening here, because as I told you, when you are building such a high powered computing, right, you need a good solid hardware. When you wanted to implement, let us say, some of the use cases given there, an automated parking system or industrial 4.0, the bottom line is your hardware, right? And if in case if you look at things like, for example, there are niche startups. I'll show you one more thing. And I think this company name is Uncanny Vision. They do hire our students in some capacity. If you look at them, they do all these automatic video based analytics, right? Okay, but when you talk about their products, okay, it's about cameras, you can see there, right? Okay, it's about basically networking which fetches the data. So embedded system, as your AI and ML is getting more and more advanced, right? Your embedded system has to be there, because AI and ML cannot function on its own, right? So definitely I see. In fact, I was in talk with in one of the discussions, I was in a talk with a person who heads the design center in a company called Synopsys. Some of you would have heard. It's a hardware company. They are actually turbo powering their chipsets, right? Mainly because the AI ML is requiring more computational power to be pushed into the hardware, right? So definitely there's a lot of correlation. In fact, if you get into the embedded side of AI ML, that is another area which is coming up. That is also a great thing to move on in a later in career. It's opening up already. Okay. If you are still doubt, go to Qualcomm website, go to NXP website, just search for at least computer vision, right? Computer vision jobs. You see that there will be a lot of embedded system there. Okay. All right. I think, how are we doing? Oh, it's already 12. Okay, I could see still a lot of questions. Every language has its own library, which is pretty different. Okay, so who is an embedded designer? I mean, what does he do in the company? That's a very good question, Shashank. Hold on to that. I have some special set of slides about that in terms of career, right? I had an year back twice having aggregate less than 60. Will I get placement? So Mahesh, as I already told you, it's about you. Okay, as long as you are able to build a skill set, you will be able to get. Okay. Can you please give me the route map for embedded engineer? Tamil is telling. Give me some time. I'll talk about the career part. What are the roles, responsibilities? What exactly an embedded engineer does in a particular company, etc. Okay. And what should one do to work on smartphone cameras and touchscreens in particular? See, Shashank, don't think like that. Okay, because many people come and ask me all these specialized questions. For example, this example which I showed you, an autonomous parking system or a high performance AML computing from the NVIDIA, right? Okay, that is something you plan it as a next level thing. Because many people get excited about these use cases, come and tell me, sir, I want to work in IoT. What should I do? Okay, I said, don't get into that. It's somebody coming and telling me, I want to become a a neonatologist, right? Or I want to become an ophthalmology surgeon, right? I said, first of all, become a doctor, get an MBBS degree. That's a basic thing, right? So which is domain? I'll talk about it in my particular future slides, right? Because embedded has got multiple verticals, be it telecom, be it automotive, be it consumer electronics, right? You can decide on that later, but if you wanted to get an entry there, your fundamentals plays a key role. So I would say, even though you are excited about this touch screen and all these cameras and stuff like that, I would request you to hold on for some time, focus on foundations, and then you can plan. Okay. Okay. What is the role of an embedded system engineer in an MNC like Intel? Pavan, give me some time. I have a slide for that. I'll show you. Okay. How to get insight of protocols? You need to have the networking skills, Raja. Okay. Mainly, which is having a tons of protocol, be TCP/IP. You know, TCP/IP itself has got a lot of protocols associated with that. So that would be a good place to start. Okay. I think Trishali is asking, sir, why no jobs for MSc electronic students when they train embedded systems with certification? Okay, BTech students have more. That's what I told. It's about the companies. I personally don't have a reason why they're considering BTechs over MSc. Okay, I don't have an answer for your question, but the reality is they are considering BTechs. Okay. Then Mohideen is asking, I'm pursuing third year electrical engineering. When will be the right time to start an embedded course? You can start any time with it. It's not necessary that you need to complete your engineering, or for that matter, you need to have some syllabus, because at least you talk about the course which I teach, which is available on, right? You don't need any criteria. You can start. Even a first year engineering student can start. Okay. I would say third year would be even a right time to start, because you have one more year ahead of you. You can really build good number of projects and have a career there. Okay. So, sir, if you do an embedded, then we have to learn only one language to get job. Yes, Anil, to start with, you learn only one language and get job. Okay, because this seems to be this thing. So let me statistically tell you, right? If you go and look in the Google also, right? When you talk about why I am so strongly putting across one programming language, right? Today, go into statistics. Okay, at least if you, as far as embedded systems are concerned, I will bet you more than embedded, 80% of the embedded systems are getting programmed using C only. Okay, more than 80%. It may be more than that. Okay, some percentage will be C++ and some percentage will be Python. Where somebody spoke about IoT, etc. Right? I'll bet you more than 80% of them are running C programming. So my request to all of you that don't get fascinated by all these things about learning multiple languages, getting some certification from some online website, or putting it in your LinkedIn profile. This will not get you jobs. Okay, they'll only give you that what you call the marketing or a branding thing, right? Learn the core things what is mentioned in the text, right? Then you will be able to proceed in that direction. Okay. A lot of questions, guys. Okay, I hope I can. So, which software used for programming PIC and ARM microcontroller? It depends, Sanket, because all these board providers provide an IDE, what you call an integrated development environment. That depends on the board and depends on the schematics. It varies. Okay. So, which language you prefer, C or C++? C. I'm telling you, only one language, which is C. Okay. So, what is the difference between embedded system and IoT? Which has got better placement? Embedded IoT. Anup is asking. Give me some time, Anup. I'll clarify. I have a specific slide on that. Okay. So doing an internship in CSIR, ISRO is better than doing internship in product industries. See, it depends, Vishnu. Okay, because I cannot comment on company A versus company B. It doesn't matter. But what you do matters. That way, I would say even if you go to a 5-member company and do a real core work, that will have more value. Okay, rather than having a big banner and because many people come and tell me, I worked on robotics, I worked on this, I worked on that. If you ask them to write a simple question, you ask them, okay, can you write a 100-line of C program on your own? Okay. Choose a company which will give you that opportunity. Then you don't need to, automatically things will be taken care. Okay. Because I see people come and writing, yes, I'll talk about it in tomorrow's resume preparation workshop, right? Because many of we will write like this, okay, internship in BSNL. Okay. Okay. You know what happens in an internship in BSNL, right? You guys know better than me. Okay. Just go there 1 week, do something, they'll give you a certificate. That will not help you anywhere, right? Okay, learn the core stuff, that only will be helpful. Before joining any institute, what are the basic requirement as a student? It depends on the institute. At least as far as immersive is concerned, as I already told you, you should have a first class engineering, at least 60%. Your year of pass out doesn't matter, right? Yeah. And which controller to best to learn embedded? Anil, so I would say start with PIC, which is a good platform which will really expose you to the lower level hardware and interfacing. I would not recommend Arduino. I would say like that. Okay, pick some, or even ARM controller, which really where you get into the low level programming. That would be the better one. Okay. So embedded career is good compared to VLSI. I can't comment on that. Ganesh is asking, because they're all about, you're comparing, you're asking me, sir, it's a batsman is good or a bowler is good, right, for a team. Okay, because there's like left eye and right eye. Okay, which eye is important, right? Both eyes are important. I can't compare, but if you look at VLSI in India, number of jobs are less. Okay, but VLSI engineers are paid very high, especially if you are coming from a analog design and all. They paid extremely high. On the contrary, if you look at, if you're interested in, if somebody asks me a question, right, I'm not so keen on programming, I'm interested in design, then go for a hardware job. But if you're interested in programming, and if you look at more than 80% of the jobs in India, it's in the embedded software side. Okay? That would be the choice you need to make. Okay? Then, oh my God, so many questions. Let me just drag. Oh God. Okay, let me quickly go through, because we are already 12:15. Somebody might get a little this thing, because we are taking more time to the Q&A. I don't mind even sitting at till 3 p.m. and answering those questions. Let me quickly see. What is Immersive's strength in placement conversion? What is the placement conversion record? So Rajesh, I would request you to take a look into our placement page. Go to immersive.com and go to the placement section. All the information is available there. Which company came, how much do they recruited, what is the salary? All the information is transparently available there. I would say that section itself should be a self-explanatory for you. I don't have to say anything. Go and look into a record already. Okay. Bhumika is telling, I did my internship in artificial intelligence and Python. Should I continue learn this or learn C? As I have no programming background, right? So it depends. See, if you're looking for a embedded career, you have to learn C, Bhumika. There is no excuse, because many of you see, if you look at many questions coming from you guys, right? You want to make your life easier, yeah. Okay. Aaram se karne ka liye chahte ho. Doesn't work like that. Okay. Because you wanted to learn programming using Arduino, learn some API, learn Python because it is easier than C. I'm telling you, no. Life is not easy, right? You have to go through this hardcore stuff. Okay. If you are interested in embedded, take PIC, take Linux, take C, and learn it in depth. There is no substitution. You have something more. I know AI, I know ML, I know, what you call Python. It's great. Or coming, an analogy I can tell is, right, suppose you go to a cake shop, right? That guy will give you something like this: a cake, a base. Then you will say, I would say cake base. Then he will give a cream, and then he will keep a cherry, right? For me, when you go and ask a shopkeeper, give me a cake, if he gives me a cream, it is of no use to me. If somebody comes and tells me, I did an internship in ISRO, or I know Python, or I did a Udemy certification in Python, it's like a cream or cherry for me. It's of no use. Yes, it's good to have, but what about this cake base? Imagine you go to a cake shop, that guy gives you a cream and cherry. Would you take it? No, right? So your important thing is to really build on it, and to build a cake base, it's not easy. You have to sweat it out. That's what I talk about all this C programming, because many of you avoid C programming because it's hard. Because pointer was samajh mein nahi aata, pointer star plus it doesn't. You have to learn. There is no choice. Somebody will think, I somehow learn Python, I avoid programming, and I somehow get into IoT. It doesn't work like that. So please be clear that don't, many of you focus on cream and cherry. I know Arduino board programming. I said baad mein jao. If you don't know, if you know Arduino programming, that's not of any use. Can you write? My question is, let me repeat. Can you write 100 lines of C programming on your own? If the answer is no, get back to basics, get and start building the depth. Maybe I'm very strongly putting across my viewpoints, but that's a reality. As sitting in a placement, leading in Immersive, leading the placement team, I talk to the companies day in and day out, and I You saw my background, about 12-13 years I worked in building these type of products, right? Nothing has changed. This cake business remains the same. Even tomorrow you go to any embedded interview, your questions will be based on C only. They will not ask you, do you know artificial intelligence, some prediction mechanism. No, they don't expect from a fresher. Okay, they expect fundamental skills only. All right, let me move on. What is embedded system domain more preferred than why embedded system domain is preferred more than other domains? It depends on, because some of you prefer, some of the students, we go and talk to computer science students, they prefer more machine learning or purely a Python or an application programming job. But one of the reasons what I see people prefer embedded system job, it is because it is sustainable, right? It's a long-term thing. You can work there for 40 years, no issues, because things will change. But it's got a, as I showed already, why companies hired our students, because majority of these embedded system companies are product companies who make long-term investments. Okay, so that's the reason why they foresee people working with them for a long-term basis. Okay, let me come to that. Sir, if you have CGPA 6, will it be counted as 60%? Okay, Manoj, this is again a major confusion, but at least as far as Immersi is concerned, we tell our students, right, don't do this conversion business. Okay, if you're a 6 CGPA, for us it is 60%. Okay, I really don't know how things work. We keep things simple. Okay, I know if you convert it will become less, etc. But in Immersi, 6 CGPA is equal to 60%, and I don't have any issues, with this assumption, because the people with 6 CGPA 6.1, they all get jobs. Okay, there is no issue because of that. Okay, rather I would say focus on the skill building side. Okay. Ashok says, please send recorded video. Sure, Ashok. Anyways, it's getting recorded. We'll share you the link later. Is analog and digital electronic knowledge also matter even if you are interested in software? Yes, Gaurav, because you are going to program a hardware. When you talked about, for example, reading data sheets, right? Or you are going to do interfacing and schematics. You need to know how the various interrupt lines work. You need to understand how this particular various peripherals are connected, where the power line is coming from, how the particular transistor works, right? How that particular control get transferred from software to hardware. So having a basic electronics knowledge is important for a what do you call embedded engineer. That's what I hope your 50 subjects which you studied, actually the theoretical part in your engineering, will come in handy to you. Okay. Then Sutari Rakesh is saying, how do students will get skills on C? How can I practice? Which topics I have to prefer, right? So we can send you some links. Okay, we do have a very good online library. Recently we launched a new website. Still it's not up. You can send out a mail. I'll share you some contact details. We'll share you some materials which you can use, Rakesh, right? So, Sutari Rakesh, I'll call you Rakesh, right? Okay. All right. So let me see. There's still a lot of questions, guys. Oh my God. Okay. Let me quickly close and finish it. What is embedded security? What is the role of embedded security software engineer? Again, actually, security is a specialized topic. Again, when you talk about embedded security, there's a wide subject which includes security algorithms. Then it also includes your security policies configuration. Again, security happens at multiple levels. Are you working at a low level, protocol level security, or an application level security like encryption, decryption? It matters. It is a very wide area and also very specific area in embedded. Okay, so that's how the security is turning out. Okay, at various layers of embedded systems. Okay. What to learn to be an embedded security software engineer? Akshay, don't focus on that. I would say as of now. Okay, again, you guys are all floating here. Okay, somebody's asking about security, somebody asking about AML, and I am coming back and beating the same point about foundations. Build on foundations. Later you decide. Straight away, something like, for example, without building a foundation of the building, you're going for the 7th floor. It's more dangerous. Do whatever is mentioned in the notepad first. Then whether you want to become a security, automotive, if somebody says industry 4.0, somebody will say autonomous car, that comes later. Because I can talk on those lines as well, but that will be very advanced audience. They will be able to relate. As far as you guys are concerned, right? Okay, first get into this area first. Then you can make a specialization in any area, right? Okay, so MJ is asking, at the end of the embedded systems course, how capable your students will be? Will they be able to do real-time projects? Yes, Mr. MJ is asking this. So what happens, like when when our students go through the 6 months training, right? Okay, they do build projects in every module that they complete. Okay, and when they are getting deployed into the company, and they will be able to pick up the real-time projects with lesser time and effort from the companies. That's the reason they come, right? I already told, right? Companies come to us because we have skilled people with us. Okay, so that's the reason they hire our students. Companies gain benefit because the skill, it is benefiting the company. They will be able. In fact, we got appreciation from some of the companies where some of the students, when they went and worked, right, they were able to equalize or even perform better than 1.5 year experienced engineers. We have emails, or appreciations companies coming from companies like that, right? The reason is those students focused on what is there in the notepad, the basic foundational skills. If you can focus, definitely you will be able to do well in the company, right? Okay. So then Sanket is asking which software is used in developing embedded. Some broad software, set of software, Sanket. It includes compilers, debuggers, profilers, IDEs, which I spoke about, right? And platform like Linux and various flavors of Linux, a bunch of them. Okay, probably I'll show some of them in my subsequent slides. Okay. Rajesh is asking, is your online training 100% placement based, similar to on-site training? Yes. In fact, that's a question. Give me 1 minute. Let me take some water. In fact, last March, April, we also did have this question. When we moved online, when it told few hundreds of students have to go to their native place because of pandemic, that was a big question and the challenge we had as a team in Emergy, that will we be able to train the students online and get them jobs? Because we know we can do this very well in a classroom-based program, but how about online? Because the mode of training is different, one, and will companies be open to hiring the students? Okay. Thankfully, today we can confidently say there is no difference. There's absolutely no difference whether somebody is taking a classroom-based training in Emergy or an online class. It all depends on how well you do your assignments and projects and build your profile. We have fantastic success stories, where people directly taken our online course and getting job in Qualcomm. Okay, we have stories like that. So it all depends on you. As far as the effectiveness is concerned, we have made enough amount of things in the online course. I will not be able to get too much details. For example, how to access a board, how do we deliver in online versus offline. There are some. Our team has worked a lot on this. But effectiveness wise, on-site and the physical classroom-based thing is same. Placements are same. People are attending placements from both. In fact, when you're applying for placements, we don't go and tell a company somebody is a classroom student or an on-site student. So evaluate them. If you find them good, they'll hire. They will also not ask, right? Would you use the internet and learn, or should you sat in the classroom and learn? It's all about your assignments and projects and how well you are able to build. Okay. Naveen is telling what exactly the skill set you have to focus on. Naveen, hold on. I'll come to this subsequent slides. I am from mechatronics department. Advanced embedded course is suitable for me. Yes, Tamil Arasu. Mechatronics is more of a you will learn. Similarly, we have students who come from, let us say, telecommunication engineering, biomedical engineering, because some colleges teach that, right? Any form of electronics and mechanical you have, it's going to be good. You are very well can take up this course, and companies do hire mechatronics people also for their embedded jobs, right? Okay. So career growth in embedded software field or software field. Again, it depends, Amitesh, right? I'll show you at least on the embedded software how people can grow. Because general software, even if you look at companies like Swiggy and Flipkart, there are also opportunities available, excellent opportunities available. It's about your interest. Every field has got its own opportunities for people to grow. It's about how well I am able to grow, right? Okay. Yeah, Tamil, so I answered your question. If my percentage is less than 60%, then what are the chances I may get higher? Rahul is asking. Yes, I already told you, Rahul. There are few companies, not all, who look for this no criteria. They look for no year of pass out and no, percentage, especially startups which are hiring our students. Okay, a few of them, not all of them. At least I would say, around 15%, 15% of our recruiting companies. You can apply for those companies, and if you can demonstrate the skills to them, they will hire you. In fact, I have success stories where people with less than 60% also can get jobs, provided you can basically demonstrate the skill set, right? It is possible. How to learn C? I can share you some link, Rakesh. You can check it out. Is this post-graduation course? If not, then what type? So Rahul, this is not a post graduation, we don't attach anything. It is just a placement oriented course which is affiliated to NSDC, which I already mentioned, right? We don't give, for example, is an MTech course, nothing. Even if I give MTech course, what is the use if it is not helping you to get a job? It's highly job oriented program. Our number one priority, number two priority, number three priority always remains on placements, placements, and placements. So we will do whatever it takes to skill you and you get you guys placed. So that's how it is. We don't remain in tappa. Somebody comes and says, my course is IIT certified, right? I completed an NPTEL course from IIT Delhi. Last week, one person came and told me, I said, what's the use if you can't write a underlines of program, right? So our focus is on placement aspects, right? I am from Delhi. Can you take your course from here? Yes, Nitesh, you can take up our online course. In fact, if you will be surprised, I have students who are taking our course from Kenya, Nairobi. There are students, right? So you can very well take our online course. As I told, as far as placements are concerned, no issues. Whether it's an online or a physical classroom, it remains the same. Tamil is asking, as a fresher, how do I start learning PIC? We can send you some links, Tamil, after the workshop. You can start with this. Okay. Will Immersive provide accommodation for students? So we don't provide on our own, Anup. So what we do when students come to our center, we have a list of paying guests and the whatever the hostel information with us. We'll share you the list. We'll allow you to go take a look. Whichever is suitable, you can take it. Okay. So we suggest you some places based on our experience, right? Okay, some students' experience. So we don't provide it on our own. Okay. And okay, Linux means want to learn Linux OSR. Of course, Tamil. Yes, when I say Linux, it's Linux operating system only. Okay. How much will it cost, Priyanka? I think our admission team would be the right person to answer that. So anything related with this PG and costs, etc. So let me add my data here. My colleague Smita, I think she's also in the call. You can get in touch with her in this email ID and phone number. Whether it's a WhatsApp or call, she will be able to answer you. Okay. Mainly about the what do you call the fees and stuff like that. Rahul is asking, how many chances will I be given to me if my percentage is less than 60? See, Rahul, it is not me or it is not we giving the chances. It's about companies giving the chances, right? Okay. So if you look at the placement policy in Immersive as such, right? Whether you are less than 60, more than 60, or more than 70, right? Okay. So from the time you complete our course, let us say 6 months course, let us say you come to the center and do the course, it is 6 months course. Let us say you join in Jan, you finish in let us say June or July, right? From July 2011, we will support you, for 1 year, which is July 2022. We'll be giving you with placement support. Okay, and you can start applying for placements from 3rd month. So if you just add up, you can apply for placements. The placement window is for 15 months. That is like 1 year and 3 months, right? See, in this window, how much amount of opportunities you are getting, that depends on companies, whether the companies are shortlisting you and you are able to crack the interview. Okay, but I'm pretty sure by looking at our placement record, right? As long as you are regular with our assignments and projects, I don't see any issue. Okay, because we cannot guarantee saying that somebody will get 10 opportunities, then somebody will ask, sir, can I get 20? Then it becomes like a sub-G market. We don't want to get into that. Our thing is to act as a skill development platform where we invite companies, where we invite students, and then connect them by skilling them, and then we connect them. That's how we work. Okay. So if you're feeling too insecure about your percentage, which is the past issue, you need to work hard, Rahul. There's no other, guarantee warranty business here. Okay. Can we work on Kali Linux? So, Rahul, again, when you talk about Linux, it has got a lot of varieties. There is Ubuntu, there's a Fedora, there is, Kali, there is Red Hat, right? You don't need to again worry about that. Again, you're asking me which pen is good, whether it's a blue ink or a black ink. I say learn writing, right? See, in our course, we do Ubuntu-based Linux, right? Okay. Later, whether it's a Kali or anything like that, you'll be able to learn on your own. Okay. Bhumika is asking, can you take your course online? Of course, yes. Okay. That's what I've been talking at length. You can sit at your home or your hostel. You can do the course online. Absolutely no problem. Okay. Sir, is your course available in bi-language? No, Arya, only English. Okay. We don't have in multiple languages. That's an important question, though. Okay. So please send the PIC course link for studying purpose. So Tamil, I would say you drop in a mail. As you see here in the above, I given the contact detail because there's too many students. I sometimes forget to follow up. You see, right? Almost an hour's time I've been answering only questions, right? We'll be able to share you whatever we have. Okay. All right. So let me go off the camera. Let me close this. I know it's a long this thing. We hardly started the presentation, and anyway, this is what important to answer your questions. So let me go little fast with respect to slides because we covered the core aspect of the topic already. Let me go back to that again. In the meantime, you have questions, please feel free to type in. All right. By the way, guys, we have a quiz at the end of the presentation, and we'll announce few winners and we'll give you some goodies. So hang on, don't run away. And that also gives me an idea that you learned, right? It's more fun as well as to really have some takeaway end of the workshop. Okay. So all right. So these are some of the statistics. Some of you asked me the question in terms of how the embedded market looks like. If you see here, the various segments in embedded. Somebody spoke me about medical or consumer electronics, etc. So this is how the market looks like in India. And the takeaway is like more than 7 lakhs jobs are available. If you see the right side, that's a point, right? That's the kind of a job market we're talking about. And if you look at the job landscape, right, this is more of an IoT market in India. This is again a data from NASSCOM, talks a ton about how the IoT is growing and how more jobs are coming, not only in in the development side, even in manufacturing, research, a lot of jobs are getting opened up. So, and as I already told you, some of you already asked me this question, right? Your IoT or even embedded, it is widely used across all these domains. Name it retail, name it environment, name it health, name it education, right? I told you guys already that don't actually jump 2 levels at the same time, right? To start with, whether you get a job in, let us say, an embedded medical embedded system, or you are getting in a smart IoT or smart home system, go and take the job. After a few years, then you will be able to really like what you really would like to do. For example, somebody asked me about industrial IoT, right? You can get into the specialized area later. Just a minute, guys. Let me take some more. All right, so let me move on. Now talk about the career, right? Many of you asked me the career, right? What I'll be doing. That's, I think, very nicely somebody asked, sir, tell me what these guys are actually doing, right? If we look at, as we already said, in India or even globally, the job in embedded can be divided into 2 pieces. One is software, another is hardware. Hardware, we already touched upon it, right? It's about VLSI and chip design, etc. We're not going to do much into it. Our focus is on software. When you talk about software, okay, you have again 2 categories. One you call it as an application software or core software. So application software was, you guys told me, right? Typically these terminologies my student teach me, right? It's about IT, where people from computer science, they get into the job, whether they're programming in Java, developing some web application, mobile application, cloud application, they come under the application software. Whereas when we say embedded, here when I'm referring to the system software, which you all already also call the core job, right? That's the terminology students use. As I told, right, these terminologies I learned from you guys, right? Okay. Now, when you say this system software, again you can divide into 2 categories. One is the left-hand side, the role that you do. For example, whether you are going to design a software right from the requirement, or somebody designed it, you are going to code it by using a programming language like C. That's what you call development engineer. Or you are going to, somebody developed, are you going to test it, unit test it, system test it, and make sure that the quality of the software is good. That's the role of a test engineer. Or many people have developed many pieces of software like an IoT. I'm going to integrate them and then make them work as a solution. Or is going to be a field application engineer, where I'm going to basically work with the business team and go and demonstrate the product to the customers and enable the business process, right? So this particular thing, whatever you can call, right, this is what you call role, right? Suppose I'm saying, I'm coming to your house, right? What is the role of your father? What is the role of your mother and yourself, or your sister, your brother, your grandparent, right? Everybody has got a role here. That's what it means here. Then comes the right side one, which is like a specific industry. For example, an automotive or a retail, healthcare, manufacturing. These are all what you call domain, right? Okay. So, for example, you are talking about what is the role of your father in your house, or what is your role of your uncle who is staying, 100 kilometers from your house, right? That's what we mean by the right side one. So, which I map it. If I look at the mapping part of it, right, I can create various combinations here. For example, I can be a design engineer doing a software design for a consumer electronic device. Let us say a company is coming up with a wearable device, which is a consumer electronic one. You are going to design the software, right, from an architecture, right from the design. You can work on it, right? That's one possibility. What is the other possibility? You can be a test engineer in an automotive segment, right? Okay. In fact, testing plays a major role in automotive, because, as you know, in an automotive kind of segment, if any small error happens, people will die. Imagine you are building a car, right? Something small, but very important happens, people may die. So a lot of testing happens in automotive industry, right? That is one possibility. Okay. Other third one could be, you can be an integration engineer in a retail. Okay, today we are talking about self checkout. You go to a shop, you yourself, what do you call, you yourself check out. There is no shopkeeper. You bill it and come out. So automatically everything happens, right? You talk about near field communication, sorry, where you show your credit card, automatically the amount get detected, etc., right? You can be like this. So like this, keep on creating various permutation combinations. So when you're starting up your career, you cannot what do you say, precisely say this is where I can start. For example, if you look at our own institute, right, there are companies which are hiring students for a consumer electronics for a development engineer role, or they may hire 2 students from Immersi and then say one guy will go and work in consumer electronics development, another guy will go and work in an automotive technology in testing, because the company will have both the projects available. Okay, to start with, I would say don't focus on the right side. Okay, so my focus is that whatever is there in the right side, don't focus, because that will, at least you need to spend 2 years 3 years to get a hang of what this industry is all about, right? Rather, I would say focus on what is there here, left side. So that's what you can do, right? Okay. And in order to do that is the importance of skill. Somebody spoke about skill. Okay. So hope you're getting a view. If you're going to a company like, somebody talked about Intel, right? In Intel, what segment? Assuming that they're building a new chip for a PC or a mobile phone that comes under consumer electronics. You can be a design, you can be a development, you can be a test, integration, or field engineering. It can be anything, or it can be more also. Okay. So my also I see a lot of people getting fascinated about this right side. Don't do. Okay, if you're fascinating, that's fine. That's good. I mean, I appreciate that. But focus on this. This is more important. Okay. So moving on the skill point of view, somebody I think we are already talking about, right? I told you guys multiple times. Okay, even though you try to deviate me by telling artificial intelligence, Python, I always say focus on foundational skills. And when it comes to foundational skills, I told 3 things. One, solid C programming skills. Then good Linux, and Linux oriented skills. Third, learn to program one hardware, and that should not be an Arduino. That should be a PIC or an ARM controller where you really know the nuts and bolts of hardware level programming. That's the first level. Then once you work there, then after some time you get the what you call the domain skills, which is about learning certain things specific to the embedded and how it is applied in various areas, etc. Then third one will be build project to showcase. As I already told you, I think one of the participants asked, so I'm in final year, what do you advise me? I told, please don't buy the project, because people buy the project from the project institute and put it in your college and get good marks, right? It's very important that you need to do good number of projects to showcase your skill. Then only the companies will know that you really worked on it. Finally, only you'll get what you call core embedded engineer. It's a 4-step process. And it happens 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't try to jump into 4. Don't try to jump into 3. Don't try to jump into 2. Start from 1. And there is no shortcut. And if I know shortcut, I'll teach you. Why will it tell go 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Many times students come and tell me, sir, can you do something where in 1 month I can get a job? I said, it doesn't work like that. If I know, why will it teach a 6 months course? Why will my mentors put so much of effort to train you for 6 months or sometimes even more than that? Okay. So it works as step by step. It takes time. Okay. So please don't try to become overnight success. Take a step-by-step approach, what is mentioned here. So when you do this is how the skill set will look like. Your Linux, data structures, your controllers, embedded Linux. This is what we basically do in our course in Immersi. And what is the outcome? You should have a complete skill set, problem solving skills, 7 to 8 projects, in your, resume, and then your resume should speak, more than you. You can ask me a number of questions, but tomorrow when you go for a interview, right, your resume should answer your questions, right? So you should be preparing for that. Okay. So this is how it looks like as far as embedded is concerned. Okay. Now let me talk about IoT a bit, because there's a question about IoT skills and all. Let me take a minute break. Let me take some water and then resume. Just hang on for a minute, guys. All right. So when you talk about IoT, again, it's widely debated in the industry, because I have this story of 5 blind people trying to explain an elephant, right? Because if let's say 5 blind men are putting different part of the elephant, they describe the elephant in the way they think. Somebody holds onto the leg of the elephant and says, elephant looks like a pillar, and somebody holds a tail of the elephant and say elephant looks like a snake, right? So what happens is IoT, depending on who is looking at it, which section you are looking at it, we tend to define. So let me give an overview of how the IoT solution works. In the first level, you have what you call IoT device, where you have small embedded devices having a sensor which gathers input from multiple sources. For example, you want to do a street light monitoring system. You have a very tiny device which sits on every street light in your area. That's what is called as IoT device. Then these few sets of IoT device come and connect with something called as IoT gateway. So IoT gateway relatively is a more powerful device, okay, which aggregates a bunch of IoT device. Going back to the same street light management example, suppose you have 1,000 street lights in your area, that will come to one gateway. Similarly, in your town, they would have divided into 4 or 5 zones, right? Each zone will have its own gateway. So the gateway is relatively more powerful one. It will have an operating system running in it because it should do more processing, right? That's why the people also call it as a edge computing these days, right? That's what happens here. Then from there comes your cloud or your network, where the complete information what the IoT gateways gather gets onto the internet. That's why it starts moving to the cloud side. In the cloud side, you have what you call a cloud platform, which connects all the information from the gateways, multiple gateways. As I said, 4 zones are there in your town. All the data collected by these 4 gateways will come to the cloud. And finally, you have an application which will give you the reports. For example, in which area the power utilization is more, where it is less, where certain streetlights have gone faulty, etc., etc. Right? So this is the overall elephant, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it depends on where you look at it. If you are an electronics engineer or an ECE engineer, you will try to focus more on the IoT device and gateway. Okay, that's a ECE or computer science engineer, ECE or electrical engineer's view, because you are more focused on embedded thing. That's why I would say this is what people call embedded IoT or embedded part of IoT. On the contrary, if you ask a computer science student or an information science student, he will take a look at more into 4 and 5, where he say, okay, how do I basically write intelligence algorithms, or how do I basically apply machine learning to predict which streetlight may go wrong, or which area the power usage may be high, or where people are basically stealing the streetlight, or whatever it could be, right? So those type of things. So it is very vast area. Again, don't focus on everywhere, because people come and tell me 2-day workshop they attend in IoT and they say, sir, I know IoT. It's not about that. Considering you are an ECE or electrical engineer, I would recommend you focus on the embedded side of IoT, because if I add 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the IoT itself will become a 2-year master's program. It's so vast. Okay, includes so much of algorithm, so much of programming language and things like that. Okay, hope you are getting a view. Okay, about when you say IoT, 2 aspects: an application side and embedded side. As far as you guys are concerned, focus only on 1 and 2, and some idea about 3, 4, and 5. I'm not getting into too details there. So when you take this look, how does your IoT skill set look like? Again, whatever I said. Okay, you need to know slightly different skill sets here. For example, in terms of architecture and programming a gateway, etc., for which along with C, you also need to learn about Python. This is where I start stressing on Python. Okay, in embedded I say learn C and C++. You know, we also have a course here in IoT we offer in Imancy where this is type of modules that we teach, right? Where you not only learn about the programming part of it, but you also learn about the integration part of it. And what is the output? Same output what we have seen in the embedded side, where you are able to demonstrate in a very good resume. Ultimately, your resume is your asset, no matter what you say. You know, and I cannot, I keep reiterating, you need to show 7 to 8 projects in your resume. Then only the interviewer will get impressed, right? People talked about era pass out, percentage, so even percentage, I will say 65, somebody will say 75. Only solution to all this problem is you have an impressive resume. Where anyways, tomorrow we'll talk about it more. 7 to 8 projects should be there, which impresses the interviewer. That's the only solution. So what happens is you are shifting the focus of the interviewer to ask more questions on this rather than going and ask why you scored less than 60 in engineering, right? Because anyways, you can't go and solve the problem, right? Whether it's a 65, 75, here are 2018, that will remain. You cannot go and rub it off, right? As I already told. But focusing on skill set, having an impressive resume will help you. And I'll tell you, people have seen success stories, right? I got cases where there's a student who is from 2014 past. Okay? Recent, I'm talking about 2 to 3 weeks scenario, right? I have a student who is from a 2016 pass out. They all getting jobs in robotics area. They are getting jobs in core IoT area. I have success stories. But what is that they've done? They stopped asking all these questions, only focused on programming and learning as per what we say. I really appreciate that you ask me questions, but I'm not discouraging you. Please don't take it that spirit. But the idea is to focus on building the skill sets. So where to start? That's a question, right? Start using Linux. Okay. If you have some queries, I already shared the email ID. You can drop there. Learn one programming language very well. I reiterated multiple times. Don't jump in. Build, even if you're not 7 to 8 project. If you're learning on your own, okay, there are a lot of sources available in the internet. If you have some specific queries, you can even ask us. We can help you to some pointers. And finally, create an impressive resume. Tomorrow, anyways, I'll talk about it in the workshop. How to build a resume, right? Where we can help as an organization, as I told you, this is one of the initiative where we are bringing in awareness, and we'll share you some templates and resume things tomorrow, and we'll give you access to technical resource library. And unfortunately, it's under construction. There's some development work happening in the backend. We'll give you access to our YouTube channels. You can already look at it. Some contents are already there. And last but not the least, I would say the major takeaway, even I enjoy thoroughly, is the question and answers, right? Okay, that's the most important takeaway, right? So that's it, guys. I had to pause here. So this is a contact detail. We have our student counselor, my colleague Smita. She's reachable at training at Imancy, and that's a number. If you have any questions, generic, or if you can any specific things about technical, anything you can shoot to this email ID and number. And we are open. We opened our office from November 30th with the what you call the safety precautions. We will we are people are available. Even if somebody want to visit our office, have any questions and clarifications, we'll be more than glad to answer you. Okay. So Rakesh, I will send you. You drop a mail. We'll send you the link with some materials. Okay. So let me see any questions are there. Thanks. You're telling. Can we change our role within the company, like from test engineer to development engineer? Yes, Vishnu, it's possible. Switching between roles, switching between domain, it is possible. Again, that's a long topic, but it is possible. Which vertical is in demand in embedded technology? So Rajesh, I cannot say which one is better. I see all of them are growing quite well. In fact, if you see, automotive continue to be one of the very impressive segment where thanks to the smart the IoT enabled cars and the self-driving cars, things are growing quite well. Okay, I can get the recording. Yes, Priyanka, I'll share you this recording. Voice is not clear due to network issue. No problem. Okay. What time is tomorrow's workshop? How different it will be? Tomorrow's workshop also will be in the same time, 11 o'clock. So tomorrow's will be little focused one. We are going to only talk about resume building because today's topic is very broad, because I need to bring you guys clarify a lot of questions and queries. So tomorrow basically will be only on a very focused topic on resume building and what do's and don'ts of building resume, right? So when will you start the embedded C offline classes? It's already running, Rakesh. All the physical classrooms are also available. Let me complete. Both online and physical classrooms are running. You can reach out to Smita. She'll be able to share you details. Okay. Abhishek telling, please share the recording. Yes, Abhishek, we'll do that. Okay, we'll share this. I'll put it in YouTube link. We'll share you that. Okay. So let me come to the last part this time. So let me. I hope I'm sounding like Viru Sahasra Buddhi. Okay. So let me open the quiz link. So this is a Google sheet. Let me copy. So please take this quiz. We'll announce some winners. We'll publish you in our social media, and also we'll send you some goodies. Our team will reach out to you. This is more of just a motivation for you guys, right? Mainly to let me also come in the camera before we close. So please click the link and take the quiz. I'll keep it open for next couple of hours, right? And Anish, duration of the course. So our physical classroom program is 6 months duration, Anish, and our online course is 4.5 months. Okay. If you have still queries, you can ask Smita. Okay. So that's what it is, guys. So this quiz for current student also. Yes, you take anybody. You can take the quiz. Okay. I think some emergency student is there. If you are already a student, don't take it. Okay. This is for new people so that we encourage and motivate them to attend because they've been sitting here for almost like 2 hours, right? If you're already an emergency student, don't take it, I would say. Okay. So any other questions, guys? You can feel free to type in. If not, can I get some feedback from you guys? How was the session? Were you able to get some idea about career building, skill sets, etc.? So Vishnu, 4.5 months and 6 months. Yes. So Vishnu, our online course is 4.5 months. Our physical offsite, what do you call it? The classroom program. Can get further details from my colleague Smita. Okay, what will be the time for online classes for professionals? So Arya, we are running an evening batch also. That is mainly for working people. I think that will be from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Okay, an evening option also available. So people who are working, they can come back home and then they can take this course, right? So can I get some feedback, guys? How was the session? Were you able to get some decent idea about the career building skill set? I know you'll be very angry with me for shooting down a lot of your ideas about programming languages, etc. But that's the reality. Do we get doubt clarification in online delivery? Yes, Rajesh, right? So after the classes, our online methodology will have doubt clearing sessions via the online chat and our learning management system, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's a duration. You can ask doubts any point in time between them. Okay. Why difference in the duration? Okay, Vishnu. Okay, that's a long question because in terms of our physical, there are two reasons why there is 1.5 month difference. One is when you come and do the course in our center, there is one module extra in our center, which is called QT. That is one reason. Second, partly, second reason being that when you talk about online, the support mechanism is different. Here we have a physical, support mechanism available where 2 hours of classroom followed 2 to 2.5 hours of classroom followed by the similar duration of lab available. Where in 5 hours there's a person physically coming and helping you in the labs and classes, which is not the class is still possible online, but lab doesn't work like that. So we made it asynchronous. Is the other point that I answered. where we have our online chat and our LMS available, where you can seek the questions and then they will clarify you that. So because of that reason, there is a optimization in terms of time, but in terms of effectiveness, placements, don't worry, both are same. Okay. Got good exposure, Rajesh is telling. Okay. Jagat Jeevan says it's really good. You clarified our doubts. Okay. Soumya says today's session is very helpful. Thank you, Soumya. Computer system minimum requirements for online course. Anup, nothing great as long as you have a decent internet connection and your PC can have a good audio video. That should be good. We don't have anything very specific. That a reasonable good quality laptop or desktop would do. Anup. Okay. Ruhi says it was great. Thanks, Ruhi. What does the infotainment design related to embedded, and there's a is there hardware embedded system? Yes. So infotainment is all about whatever you call streaming and media and stuff like that, where what you call the video on the go, where you play in the whether you call it as a car or a flight, right? You are on the move, and then you are still getting the entertainment content from the internet, right? It has got a lot of software and hardware associated with it. Yes. So please brief about online course. Nitesh, that will be too long for me if I explain the details. Maybe Smita, you can take a note of Nitish. Maybe I will again put the contact of Smita here. Please ping her offline, and she will be able to clarify. Because otherwise, this will become like a course counseling session. That's not the intent. How to get into the embedded hardware? As I already told Shashank, our course is about software. Hardware will be later because I the chip design, not the software. Okay. All right. Yeah. Welcome. Any other questions, guys? Are you taking the quiz? I think about 50 are there in the group. 44 I could see. Okay. Hope the session was useful. Okay. I hope to see most of you tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We will keep the sessions focused today. As I told, it's a very broad topic. Tomorrow we'll keep it focused to this thing. Actually, the best. So, sir, how to start the embedded program? So please get in touch with my team, Rakesh. Okay, again I'm flashing Smita's contact in the screen. Caller, mailer. Okay, we'll help you with further details, because some of you asked about difference between online and offline. Clarifying would be too long. Okay? It's already 1 o'clock, right? We'll help you. Okay. Pick link, sir, please. Tamil money. Okay, as I told, it's currently under development. I need to check with my team where the dump is. Drop us a mail. We'll get back to you. Okay? I will not be able to share you now. The resource library going through some changes, so we need to check. Same Bhumika, we'll share you. Tamil money, don't put your email ID here. I will not be able to collect it. You drop a mail, we'll share it with you. That email ID, whatever is it, training@emergy, we'll share you. Okay? Because I will not be able to take a note. This chat will run through, right? Okay. C language also, Bhumika, we'll send you some materials. If you say drop us a mail, we'll share it. All right, guys. Any other questions? Hope all of you are taking the quiz. Okay, let me also take a look into it later. Okay, so thank you very much for attending. Thank you, sir. Let me go off the video.